Assalamualaikum guys, this is Ishan here and today I am going to start a series of lecture regarding Linux operating system, and today's lecture is about the introduction of Linux, because if we give the introduction then we will know about the whole infrastructure of Linux, that what will we do in the future. This is the first lecture in which I will tell you about some introductory notes about Linux. Then we will start from next lecture about the Linux administration. Now go to the first lecture, and before going to the first lecture, please subscribe my channel Technique Training, like and share my videos, press bell icon for new updates. So this is the lecture 1, Introduction to Linux operating system, and today's agenda of this presentation is: what is an operating system, what is Linux, history of Linux, flavor of Linux, the world without Linux, and Linux versus Windows. These are very popular questions in our minds, that what are these things. So first of all, before reviewing the Linux operating system, we would understand what is an operating system. An operating system is a system software that manages computer hardware, software resources, and provides common services for computer programs. Main feature of an operating system is a time sharing. Time sharing operating system schedule the tasks for efficient use of the system and may also include accounting software for cost allocation of processors, time, mass storage, printing, and other resources. For hardware functions such as input and output and memory allocation, the operating system acts as an intermediary between two programs and the computer hardware. Although the application code is usually executed directly by the hardware and frequently makes system calls to an OS function or is interrupted by it. There are many types of operating system: distributed operating system, templated operating system, embedded operating system, real-time, and library. Distributed operating system manages a group of distinct computers and makes them appear to be a single computer. The development of networked computers that could be linked and communicate with each other gave rise to distributed computing. If you make a distributed environment, you already know that there is a single computer in which database or some other operating system are being installed there, and all other different computer from other environment access that system. So this is called the distributed environment, and it is called the distributed environment operating system. Templated operating system is that in which a distributed operating system and cloud computing context refers to creating a single virtual machine image as a guest operating system, then saving it as a tool for multiple running virtual machines. The technique is both in virtualization and cloud computing management and is common in large server warehouses. Similarly, embedded operating systems are designed to be used in uh, embedded computer system. They are designed to operate on a small machine like PDAs with less autonomy. Though these are called the embedded operating system. Real-time operating system is an operating system that guaranteed to process events or data by specific moment in time. A real-time operating system may be single or multitasking, but when multitasking, it uses specialized scheduling algorithm so that a deterministic nature of behavior may be achieved. Library operating system are those operating systems in which the services that a typical operating system provides, such as networking, are provided in the form of libraries and composed with the application and configuration code to construct a unique kernel link. Now This is the list of famous operating system: Windows, Unix, Linux, Android, and iOS, and many others. Now I am going to deliver a lecture about introduction of Linux operating system. So we will go there and I will tell you what is Linux. Linux is a Unix based operating system. So if you want to start Linux, then we will have to understand what is the Unix. First operating system of the world was Unix, developed by AT&T Labs in 1969 for CIA and National Security Agency (NSA). Developer Dennis Ritchie and co-developer Thompson developed this operating system in C and C++ and Java code. It was an open source code. After AT&T had dropped out of Multics project, the Unix operating system was conceived and implemented by Ken Thompson and Dennis Ritchie in 1969 and first released in 1970. In 1977, the Berkeley Software Distribution (BSD) known was developed by Computer System Research Group from UC Berkeley based on the 6th edition of Unix from AT&T. Since BSD contained Unix code that AT&T owned, AT&T filed a lawsuit in the early 1990s against the University of California. This strongly limited the development and adoption of BSD. Now, come to the Linux operating system. It is also an open source operating system, and in recent time many other operating systems are working on the command rules of Linux. For example, Android and Macintosh operating system. In today's world, 98% of the computer system, web domains, web servers are being held on the Linux operating systems. So it is a community developed operating system for computers, servers, mainframes, mobile devices, and embedded devices. In 1991, a student from Finnish University, or you can say that a student named Linus Torvalds, created a new free operating system kernel, and he named this as a Linux. These factors. He was a student at University of Helsinki. Linus Torvalds began a project that later became a Linux kernel. He wrote the program specifically for the hardware he was using and independent of an operating system because he wanted to use the function of his new PC with an 80386 processor. The GNU C compiler is still the main choice for compiling the Linux today, but can be built with other compilers such as the Intel C compilers. Now you can say that Linux is the proprietary of the Unix. There are many flavors of Linux are being distributed in the market, and most famous operating system or distributor of Linux is Red Hat Linux and widely used in the world. CentOS is the copy of same to same, you can say it is a same to same copy or ditto copy of Red Hat Linux, or you can say that it is a legal free version of Red Hat Linux operating system. Fedora is also a very famous distribution of Linux operating system. Ubuntu, it is one of the most famous operating system in the history of Linux. It was developed in 2000 in the year 2004, and since 2004 it is widely used across the world. SUSE Linux or SUSE Linux is used in cloud infrastructure. IBM and HP has developed their own Linux operating system, and these operating systems are very powerful and very effective to work. And Mac operating systems are the home-based user operating system, and graphics of these operating systems are very beautiful. That's why these are very interactive and attractable to the users. So these are the different flavors of Linux, And Linux has many other flavors also, but some flavors which are very famous around the world I have shown here. If we think a world without Linux, that it is impossible to think world without Linux. If Linux doesn't exist, then there would be some other operating system underneath, different domains would be working. So if you imagine this, the world without Linux, then 96% of the 1 million top web servers around the world almost powered by the Linux operating system. Google, Yahoo, Wikipedia, Gmail, and many other basic, main, and famous domains are being currently working with Linux operating system. And Linux firewall is one of the most powerful firewall in the world, and its security can't be break easily. And it can develop a honey trap for hackers, so hacker can also be tracked easily. That's why Linux is a famous operating system. Just because it is an open source operating system, it is, as it is an open source operating system, so this is the biggest advantage of Linux operating system, and this may be the biggest disadvantage of the Linux operating system also. If some good companies like IBM, HP, and other hardware vendor company have developed their operating system for Linux, so this is good. But a single user can't easily develop a Linux operating system, and it will be really harmful for the operating system security. So if we talk about the different distributor of Linux, I have already mentioned it is an inheritance of Unix operating system, Apple, IBM, HP, and I have forgotten that Sun Solaris is also the operating system of Linux, but Oracle has purchased this operating system. Now we will talk about the difference between Linux and Windows operating system, and this is a very common and very famous question, that what is the difference between Linux and Windows. You can search many websites about the difference between Windows and Linux, but I would recommend one difference only here, that Windows is not an open source operating system. On the other hand, Linux is an open source operating system. Windows is the sole proprietor for its products. Microsoft Windows XP, Microsoft Windows 2000, up to its first release, Microsoft 1.0 to Microsoft Windows 10 and server environment. These are all the properties of Microsoft. No one other distributor can't distribute these operating system. On the other hand, Linux is an open source operating system and may be developed by different big companies, as I have told you earlier, that Apple, IBM, HP, Red Hat, Solaris, Ubuntu has developed their famous operating system. That's why this is the main biggest difference between both operating system, and both operating system have their worth. Windows is the sole proprietor. That's why it has the biggest market share in the world nowadays, which is about 82.7% in the world. And after that, Apple Incorporation has second largest turnover in the world, which is about 13.2%. And then different distribution of Linux also comes under this, as Apple Macintosh operating system is a Linux operating system, but this is held by the Apple Incorporation also. On the other hand, different distributors which just work for the Linux operating systems have about ratio of 11.2% something in the world. That's why Windows has biggest market in the world, but Linux only used in the server side environment. That's why it is server side environment. That's why it has importance in cloud environment, in networking and system engineering environment. This is the main basic difference, that Linux is an open source operating system, and on the other hand, Windows doesn't reflect as an open source operating system, and both have their own worth. So that's the end, guys. Thank you very much. Before going, I will remind you to please subscribe my channel Technic Training, like and share my videos, press bell icon for new updates. Thank you very much, guys. Okay, Allah Hafiz.